Welcome you all. After discussing our stress, strain, Hooke's law, the relation between the Poisson's ratio and the corresponding longitudinal and lateral strain, we are now here to discuss about the relations. It is going to basically establish the relations as I have discussed in the last class. How the Young's modulus, the rigidity modulus, and the Poisson's ratio are connected to each other, and basically it is called as relation between the elastic constant. The elastic constant, when I am saying elastic constant basically means for a isotropic or homogeneous material, E and G. Stands for Young's modulus, where G stands for rigidity modulus. What is that rigidity modulus? I think I have also discussed earlier, and again we are going to discuss about the rigidity modulus during the discussion of torsion. We will discuss about the stress strain diagram when we will come to the discussion of the stress strain diagram. Although we have discussed a part of the Young's modulus during the discussion of the Hooke's law, still we are going to discuss or elaborate the Young's modulus, how to evaluate the Young's modulus. All these points will be discussed during the discussion of the stress strain diagram. Additionally, I also want to express some kind of during other new videos, when will come with the new classes, will come with the different ideas and different discussion. But this particular discussion I will fix to relation between the elastic constant, and the elastic constant, as I said, E elastic modulus or Young's modulus, and G is the rigidity modulus, and nu is the Poisson's ratio. Because we know, someone may ask, if I know the Young's modulus, if I know the G, if I know the nu, then what is the necessity of to establish this relation? Because we have already discussed that if I'll apply a load on a body, then the body is going to deform in all this direction. That means it is not only fixed to in the direction it has been loaded. It is not only fixed that it is going to elongate or compress. Whatever it is going to happen, it is not going to happen in one direction. It may possible that if I'll it is not possible, it is going to happen if the body is going to elongate in one direction, it is going to shorten in its cross sectional area. If it is going to shorten in cross sectional area, then establish the shortening of and elongation deformation along the x and the shortening along the their cross sectional area. We have discussed during the discussion of Poisson's ratio. Similarly, now this due to the application of load, since the body is elongating, and it obeys the Hooke's law, and within the elastic limit, the stress is directly proportional to strain. If the stress is directly proportional to strain, then we know how to write the unidirectional stress strain relationship, as well as generalized relation between generalized Hooke's law as well. Now, where from this rigidity modulus comes? Because not only the body is going to stretch, there might be a chance of shearing as well. If the shear stress comes into the picture, in torsion, I think I have also discussed during the first class, there is another part of the torsion. When torsion comes with the shear stress automatically. Similarly, here also, due to the normal stress, since the normal stress or the normal force which is coming onto the body, that normal force will have three components. One is normal and two is parallel, and these two parallel gives rise to the shear stresses. If the shear stresses are there, shear stresses basically tries to body to distort, and or shear strain, which we call it shear strain, and to not the body, if I don't want to distort or the body don't want to distort, then it will try to oppose that distortion or to maintain the perpendicularity. Then at that time rigidity comes. We have also discussed the strength defines the load bearing capacity is the strength, and the deformation capability is the stiffness. And the stiffness, which stiffness means the structure does not allow all this. We have already discussed various times. Again, we are going to discuss also in other cases for different chapters or different module. We will discuss about that. In order to establish those relations, if I apply a simple load, that load will have three components, because any point within the space will have three component like x, y, z. Similarly, if I'll apply a load in 3 dimension, I'll have three component, or in a plane or a particular plane, I'll have three components of the forces. One is normal force, two is parallel force, and that two parallel force creates the shear force, and that shear force creates the shear plane. Based on the parallel plane, we will get the shear stress, and the normal force due to the normal plane on it will create the normal stress. Now all these three will necessary, hence it is necessary to discuss about, if I'll apply the load and the deformation, how it will go hand by hand, and how the constants are going to, at the mechanical behavior can be established, or the constitutive behavior what we have discussed regarding the Hooke's law. The similar way we can discuss about the rigidity modulus also, although we have not discussed that, because it is similar to that, so we have not discussed about that, and we may discuss in other place also, but it is the similar way we are going to extend. Now I'll directly come to that point, that Eg nu, the elastic modulus, shear modulus, as well as the nu, the Poisson's ratio, how it can be established. Now to establish these three, you can also say in other way as well. If there is a if the structure is going to elongate one direction, then it is opposed, that means it is going to oppose, that elongation may also oppose, and that opposing stress or opposing load creates the opposing load basically creates the or evolves the normal stress, the Young's modulus. Similarly, the other two component, which is not trying to body to distort, because at the cross sectional area, when it is going to the total cross sectional area of the object, let's say if I am considering this is the object and I am trying to stretching here, and this cross sectional area, when this cross sectional area is going to decrease, so there might be chance of this perpendicularity of the side perpendicularity of this object, or side perpendicularity of this object may not maintain. If the side perpendicularity may not maintain, then the shear strain may occur. So to just resist that part, automatically the shear stress comes. If the shear stress comes, to resist or to that to overcome that distortion, we call it the property of that material not allows the body to distort, or not allows the body to maintain the perpendicularity, the G comes into the picture. So simply, so based on that, due to a single load, all this constant E and G comes, and since the strains are changing in all the direction, to establish that strain, I need to know about the Poisson's ratio, because the Poisson's ratio helps me to discuss about the normal strain and the shear strain, which is occurring due to a normal stress, basically due to a normal force, or due to a force, and that force may be normal, may not be normal. If the force is normal, then it will create only the normal stress. If the force is inclined, then it will create three components, one is normal, other two are parallel. Likewise, we have already discussed stress in a point, stress at an element, all this point. Now the same thing has been established. In this particular lecture, we will discuss about the same. Now to do so, the relation between the elastic constant, what I have already said, I need not to speak more and more. Already have explained the basic of that, what is the basic idea of this lecture. So modulus of elasticity we represent in terms of E, or most of the time it is represented as E, and most of the book follows the Young's modulus as E. Most of the book follows the bulk modulus. Again, one extra term or new term comes in the picture, bulk modulus. We have not yet discussed anything about the bulk modulus. We will try to first find out. I think most of you know what is bulk modulus. I need not to explain just now. When I'll take, as I said, E, G, nu, these three terms were well known to us, but this K, earlier, although you might have heard about this term bulk modulus, what exactly this bulk modulus? So now extra term added to the properties or relation, E, G, nu and K. K is the bulk modulus. Now what is bulk modulus and how it will be calculated? We as stepwise first will calculate the bulk modulus, then we will go for the establishing the relationship. Now the shear modulus or modulus of rigidity is represented as G, and similarly now we are trying to establish this EGK via Poisson's ratio. And why the Poisson's ratio? I have already told why the Poisson's ratio. Now, in order to establish the relation between the above three, we need to know the Poisson's ratio. Because why? Because if there is a, why I need to know volumetric strain? Because initially at the very first class we have discussed, whenever there is a force, that force will have components, and that component creates two major kind of stresses. One is direct stress, one is shear stress. The direct stress basically gives or creates the cause, it is the cause which causes the volumetric change, and the shear stress which causes the shape change or distortion change, or distortion induced in the structure due to the shear stress. Now the volumetric strain, since there is a normal stress, there might be a chance, or always the normal stress tries to distort the body, or the volumetric strain, it will try to change the volumetric strain. Now we must know what is volumetric strain. Most of you know what is volumetric strain. We just go on just to calculate what we have calculated in the Poisson's ratio during the discussion of the Poisson's ratio, Hooke's law. What we have calculated the strain, the same procedure will be followed over here. Now a figure has been shown, and that figure says a initial shape and a final shape. The dotted line represents the initial shape, and the solid line shows the final shape. That means if I am giving a elongating type of force or tensile kind of force is attached to a body, then the body may change to a new shape. It will have a higher length, and that length or that corresponding dimensions has been changed. Now if I know the force, I know the force I have applied, I know the area. Now how to establish? Now if I will apply the load in elongation, or in a tensile kind of load will be applied, then it will try to elongate. If it will try to elongate, then there are the strains are going to induced in that material, which we have just now seen. The solid line which are showing, that is, it has been extended than the dotted line. The dotted line, the dimension of the, or the length of the dotted line is smaller than the length of the solid line. So that means a length has been increased. If the length has been increased, at the same time the dotted line diameter was higher than the solid line diameter, so the diameter has been decreased. If the diameter has been decreased, we have also discussed during the discussion of the Poisson's ratio. That means we normally take the amount of the extension or stretch will occur, the same amount of the reduction will occur. That means if this is a rectangular plate or rectangular object, if I will try to pull this body in this direction, that means in along its length, then the amount of elongation will induce, or the elongation will improve or increase. The same amount, the proportionally, it will also decrease the cross sectional area. And the cross sectional area again, they maintain the proportionality. That means it will have two dimensions, one is B and one is T. If I will say width and, or W and T, width and thickness, the amount of width is going to reduce, that amount of thickness has to be reduced. Similarly, the proportionally it has to reduce. So that is also, that is represented as, one is longitudinal strain, one is lateral strain. And lateral strain can be of two types. Either if it is a rectangular object, it will be delta. The object I have shown, it's a rectangular object. Rectangular object has two dimensions, its width and thickness. If it is the figure we saw just now, the figure we saw, that is circular in nature. So either it is delta B by B or delta D by D. Now the Poisson's ratio, what we understand or what we know, the Poisson's ratio, nu is equal to minus of or negative of lateral strain by longitudinal strain. We understand that. I need not to explain again. Now the volumetric strain, if I know the strain, individual strain, then I can get the total volume, change in volume. If I know the initial volume and final volume, I can get the change in volume. And the original volume, if it is known to me, then I can able to get the same way. It is not always true that it will have a circular object. It is not always true it will have a a rectangular object, we can develop the same thing either using a circular object or using a rectangular object. That means the straining, I am talking about the straining which is going to occur on that body, we can utilize in the both. So in the straining, if it is a rectangular object, then we will have two different LBT. But in case of circular object, I will have only L and D. So now to establish that LBT, we will consider that LBT because it will have a better understanding and it can be reduced to 1. Now the same thing has been shown in this figure. Let us say I am considering a rectangular parallelopipe structure. The parallelopipe structures, what do you mean by again parallelopipe? I think most of you know. The parallelopipe structure says that if I'll cut the object from anywhere from the cross section, the cross section is not going to change, it maintains the same. And now here you can see whatever we just now discussed about the cross sectional area, the amount of D, because whatever it was B, the inner, there is just like a concentric circles, here the concentric rectangulars are shown, or a hollow rectangle, it is looking like a hollow rectangle. A hollow rectangle says whatever the amount of B was earlier, now it has been reduced a delta B amount. Similarly, whatever the amount of depth or its height, it has been reduced to, or T, it has been reduced to D minus delta D or T minus delta T. Or it is only, if it is a circular, then it will only D will come into the picture, other things will vanish. Now the delta L, delta B and delta T or delta D, whatever, as we consider both kind of things can be represented. So delta L represents the increase in length, where delta B is the decrease in breadth, and delta T decrease in thickness, or delta D, delta T or delta T D. Delta D represents the circular type, delta T, or you can say also BD. When we calculated moment of inertia I, either we write BTQ by 12 or BDQ by 12. So similarly here also you can also take a T or D, any one you can also take. Now to differentiate, since we have started with a circular object and we are discussing about a rectangular object, it has been introduced T and D. There should not be any confusion on that. Now increase in length, since it is been extending in x direction or it's a length direction, so it will be increased. So del L, whatever the L initially was there, now the final length is L plus delta L. Similarly, the breadth and width has been reduced. Again how much it is? It has been reduced. We took at B minus delta B and T minus delta T. As I said, we assume that the amount of delta B and delta T has to be same. If it is not, or the total lateral strain which is going to occur, the lateral strain basically is a two part. It is associated with the width and it is associated with the thickness. Two different lateral strain are occurring at the same time. Now the same that is necessary, that assumption is necessary to establish the further relation, and we will also will talk about that in the next slide. Now the initial volume, if I know the LBT, that means length, width and thickness, if I know, so if I will multiply these three, I can get the initial volume, because I need the change in volume by original volume, and change in volume is nothing but the final volume minus initial volume or original volume. And final volume, if I need the final volume, then I need to know how much the length has been increased, or how much the diameter has been decreased, or the width and thickness has been decreased. In order to obtain those points, or in order to find out those points, these steps are very clearly has been written. I don't think any further confusion is there. Now the final volume, as we have known to this, L has been increased and del B has been decreased and T has been decreased as well. That means length has been increased, width and thickness has been reduced, and amount of delta B and delta T accordingly. Now the new final volume, L plus delta L, B minus delta D, and you can see the last two terms, which are very, very small in nature. The last two terms means the final volume, if I'll see the positive and negative, some part of the positive and some part of the negative will be, that means delta L, delta B, delta T, delta L, delta B, delta T will be cancel each other. Now the rest is LBT plus BT into delta L minus LB into delta T once B into width and to thickness, it will be multiplied with delta L. When width and thickness will be there, the change in length will be there. When L into B is there, that means length into breadth is there, then thickness will be there. When length and thickness will be there, then the small change in B, that means width, has to be multiplied with that. It's a simple, very simple expression has been shown. Now the change in volume, I want to find it out because I need the volumetric change. So change in volume can be found out by initial volume, final volume and initial volume. By deducting these two, I can get the final one is final volume minus initial volume, LBT will be cancelled. So rest is BT into delta L. That means dV is equal to I got here dV is equal to the change in volume dV is equal to BT into delta N minus LB into delta T minus LT into delta B. So dV, now I can write the volumetric strain, change in volume by original volume. Now change in volume I got BT into divided by the original volume LBT. Now I put a BT into delta L by LBT. So BT will be cancelled, delta L will be there. Now this form, I think most of you can able to catch, able to follow how you got all these three terms. That means delta L by L minus delta T by T minus delta B by B. That means delta T by T is the one of the lateral strain, delta B by B is one of the lateral strain. These two are occurring. But in case of diametric case, we will have only delta D by D. There is no other change. If it is a rectangular case or a square case, then only we can get similar kind of three different terms. Now the delta L by L is nothing but the longitudinal strain. That means total volumetric change is nothing but the total longitudinal strain minus the other two lateral strain, delta T by T and delta B by B. Now the EV is the longitudinal strain minus 2 into lateral strain. Why I have written, as I also discussed, why I could able to write 2 into lateral strain? Because it is minus, because we are taking proportional. The delta T by T and delta B by B, the amount of delta T or the amount of delta B are proportional with each other. If they are proportional with each other, we have to take, we are assuming that both are constant, they are not changing. So 2 into lateral strain, it comes from there only. That assumption has been imposed and we got this one. Otherwise, it will be continued like that. It cannot be solved, it cannot be based on, or a complexity will increase. Somebody may ask, is it true for a homogeneous and isotropic material there will be no such change and it will hold? And for other materials, some advanced kind of materials also, or some other kind of material also, it may hold within the elastic limit. There is nothing is going to change much on that, because the strain is 1%, within the 1%. So that is the only reason. These two region, one is it is stress is directly proportional to strain within the elastic limit, which obeys the Hooke's law, and the second part is that the total engineering strain, and within the elastic limit the strain is within 1%. That means it is 0.01. when I unload it, it comes to its original position. So that means the distortion which has been occurred, it is not going to affect the whole final response. So that's why I could able to write this form. Now somebody may ask, if it is a volumetric change, as the volume has been changed, then how it is possible that already we can write, because volume has been changed. If the volume has been changed, that means the infinitesimal change has been occurred. What is the volume we are talking about? That volume is very, very small in nature, and it is not going to, let's say, what is the very, very small when I am saying? It is near about less than 1 also, as we have taken for the sake of, or during the discussion of the strain expression, we have taken less than equal to, or very, very less. That means 1.03, 1.03 if I am writing, or 1.04 if I am writing. It is not going to affect the total strain or the total behavior much, or 1.001, let's say if I am writing, it's just very, very small I am talking about. Now the same kind of assumptions are helping us to reach a new kind of behavior, or this helps us to reach the final relation between the constant. Now the Poisson's ratio, this lateral strain by longitudinal strain, which is also saying that lateral strain is nu into longitudinal strain, because to convert, EV is equal to the change in volume, or the volumetric strain is equal to longitudinal strain minus 2 into lateral strain. Now I convert the lateral strain to longitudinal strain because by utilizing with the help of the longitudinal and lateral strain with respect to the Poisson's ratio. That's why the Poisson's ratio is important here to introduce. Otherwise, Poisson's ratio will not have any use to introduce. Only to establish the relation between longitudinal strain and the lateral strain. Poisson's ratio is well known to us, so we have utilized our old ideas or old basic things incorporated in this particular expression, and we can get that. Now EB is equal to longitudinal strain minus 2 into longitudinal minus 2 into 2 nu into longitudinal strain or Poisson's ratio. Now the EV or the change in volume is longitudinal strain into 1 minus 2 nu, and that is the equation number 1. And longitudinal strain we know delta L by L. Now similarly the EV can also told as EL is equal to cross as I said earlier, for circular cross section it will come EL into 1 minus 2 nu. It can also found out the similar way the way we did for the rectangular part. The volumetric strain of rectangular block subjected to normal stress on 3 mutually perpendicular planes. Is it? I think this line is very clear. Volumetric strain of a rectangular block. We are talking about the rectangular block. Just now we have derived this equation. The volumetric strain of a rectangular block subjected to a normal stress, stresses, because normal stress are the stresses or direct stress are the stresses which creates the volumetric strain, without which there will be no volumetric strain or volumetric no volume change will occur. And if the volumetric strain or the volumetric strain induced of the rectangular block subjected to, it has to subjected to a normal stresses on 3 mutually perpendicular. Let's say if it is in 3 mutually perpendicular planes, if the stresses are applied sigma x along xx, sigma y along yy, and sigma z along zz, then what are the relation we got that will hold. Now strain in x direction, then what will happen? If it is a 3-dimensional case, what will happen? Now Ex is the strain in xx direction due to sigma x, and which we know from our earlier discussion from the Poisson's ratio, or generalized Hooke's law already give this expression as given to us. Now Ex, Ey, and it is mathematically written as sigma x by E minus nu sigma y by E minus nu sigma z by E, and Ey and corresponding Ez we can able to write. Now why I am interested to write? Because initially when I have started with a normal, there is just only normal stress, and it is unidirectionally loaded condition I am talking about. Now unidirectionally I have loaded in x, then I have loaded in y, then I have loaded in z, then I am superimposing all these strains which has been occurred to find out, because EV also can be calculated, the strains along the x, y, z also calculated, the total volumetric strain can also be found out in this form. That means Ex plus Ey and Ez, if I add all these 3 strain correspond to the EV. I believe it is right, or it is clear to everyone. Now based on that I am putting all this relation at a time, and I can get sigma x plus sigma y by sigma z by E minus 2 nu sigma x plus sigma z, sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z by E. Now we can write Ex, Ey, Ez is equal to what we are writing. Earlier we have started delta L by L into 1 minus T nu, or longitudinal strain by 1 minus 2 nu has been converted in form of strain, volumetric strain. Earlier we have written the EV is equal to delta L by L into 1 minus 2 nu. Now it has been written EV is equal to sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z by E into, that means the stresses which has been developed along their corresponding axis. Then from there I can get, that's why we are telling that, or here you see there is no shear strain is occurring, although there is a volumetric strain occurs. So in that relation we are saying if there is a normal stress, so normal stress always tries to modify the body or change the volume of the structure or the volume of the component. Now it can be explained in the similar way. So now the change in volumes or volumetric strain can be represented as dV by V into sigma x plus sigma by E into 1 minus 2 nu. By doing so, what exactly we are trying to find out? We are trying to connect the volumetric strain and the normal stress and the Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio. Now we have established. It will help us to find out the second part, or the majority or major part of the structure, one more property. Let's say here one, what we just now discussed. Let's say the object either in I have shown here in a compressive manner. Somebody may ask, is it compressive? It may be in compressive or it may be in tensile. I have started with the compressive part. So it gives the birth to this line of the bulk modulus. From there, this relation, the earlier relation what we have just now discussed, dB by V is equal to EV is equal to sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z by E into sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z. It has been taken as common, 1 minus 2 nu. We just now discussed. The same thing has been extended over here. When a body is subjected to uniform normal stress, same nature, that means either it is compressive type or it is extending type, all are in same nature. That means sigma x, sigma y, sigma z, if I apply on a body, when a body is subjected to uniform normal stress of same nature along three mutually perpendicular direction, the ratio of normal stress to the corresponding volumetric strain will give you the bulk modulus. That means the restriction or the structural property which restricts the body not to change its volume, which opposes the property of the structure or structural component of a body, which opposes the body not to change the volume, is nothing but the bulk modulus of that structure or bulk modulus of that material. But it is only possible, and this relation is only possible when all the loads which is applied on the body, it is mutually perpendicularly applied, as well as they must be in similar fashion, either all are tensile or all are compressive. And based on that, it has been written that the normal stress by volumetric strain or volumetric stress by volumetric strain. Sometimes the normal stress, because the normal stress creates the volume change, so it is also termed as volumetric stress. So volumetric, the ratio between volumetric stress by volumetric strain will give you the ratio between them will give you the bulk modulus. Now the volumetric stress by volumetric strain, you just carry, if you will go on, you will just see amazingly the sigma divided by dV by V, which we know, all of us we know how we have just now calculated. Now the sigma is the stress on each element. You may ask one question, that if the structure is going to loaded in all the direction in the same, that means if I am talking about this block, instead of that square kind of block, if I am having a rectangular block, and that block is x, y, z, same kind of load will apply, or same stress will be applied. There are two component of that, like direct stress and shear stress. There are two kind of stresses develops, and they are also named as some in this way also. Sometimes they are called, one creates the volumetric strain, or one creates which is the direct stress, and other one is deviatoric stress. And this deviatoric stress basically talks about the distortion occurs in the structure, and we will discuss about this deviatoric stress and the normal stress, about the normal stress in the similar name when we will discuss about the theories of failure. Not now, we are not discussing about that. The distortion created by the stress component is also named as deviatoric stress. The shear stress we are talking about. Now the stresses in each element, which we have already shown, which we have already discussed, and the E is the Young's modulus, nu is the Poisson's ratio. Now the resultant strain in x direction we already know. What is the resultant in x direction? And the resultant in x direction is, if the loads are same or the stresses are same, then I am just replacing the sigma y, sigma z and sigma x, all are equal to sigma. Now putting that, the new value of Ex, new value of Ey and a new value of Ez can be obtained by sigma E into 1 minus 2 nu in all the cases. Now the volumetric strain, the Ev is equal to Ex plus Ey plus Ez, and that can be represented as, again, once I got that one, that means volumetric strain, the bulk modulus is equal to the relation already, volumetric stress by volumetric strain. So sigma by 3 sigma into 1 minus 2 nu, and from there, from where the sigma by E or this 1 minus 2 nu has come. I think it is clear now. Now we can have this sigma sigma will be cancelled, and this E G K will have a new relation. So the K is equal to E by 3 into 1 minus 2 nu, or it is 3K. That means bulk modulus, Poisson's ratio and Young's modulus having a relation 3K into 1 minus 2 nu is equal to E. One extra term, that means we got the relation E and nu in terms of K, or E and K, Young's modulus and bulk modulus, by utilizing the Poisson's ratio. And the relation says E is equal to 2G into 1 plus nu. If I want to evaluate this relation, if I want to prove this relation, we can do our own, as we have followed the earlier steps in for the first part. What the steps has been followed, the same steps can be followed to find out the relation between E, G and nu. This relation basically gives you the connectivity regarding rigidity modulus and E, and I am not going to discuss more on this part. Rather, I just show some steps how to evaluate the same. And if I'll talk about this E is equal to 2G into 1 plus nu, it is basically comes from our earlier knowledge. That means from the Hooke's law says stress is directly proportional to the strain. Either it is normal stress or it is shear stress. Shear stress correspondingly the shear stress also proportional to the shear strain. Tau is directly proportional to either phi or psi or gamma. The shear strain can be represented in various form, and most of the book follow either gamma, or some of the books follow phi. So now if tau is directly proportional to phi, so tau is the shear stress is directly proportional to the phi. Based on that, we can write the proportionality constant G is equal to, at the case of normal stress we write proportionality constant E is equal to sigma by epsilon. Here the proportionality constant is G is equal to tau by phi. Now the tau is equal to the shear stress, and that shear stress is equal to tau is equal to shear stress, and the phi is the shear strain, and G is the modulus of rigidity. Now the same thing has been extended here. Now phi by 2 is equal to tau by 2G. I believe you can understand where from this phi by 2 comes, because this phi by 2 basically represents this phi by 2, or this phi by 2 most of us we already discussed during the discussion of how the half of the mathematical expression of the shear strain we have discussed already. We have discussed regarding the same. And at that time we wrote this phi by 2 or the gamma by 2 is showing the half of the distortion occurs. And now it is the, if, or I can do in other way. You see the relation which I got, G is equal to tau by phi. Now I am writing phi is equal to tau by G. Now I am dividing 2 in both sides. So I got phi by 2 is equal to tau by 2G. Because I need to, in order to obtain this E is equal to 2G into 1 plus nu, so I need a term 2G which has been shown over here. So I can write the same expression in other way. So phi is equal to tau by G. Now divide 2 in both sides. So phi by 2 is equal to tau by 2G. And why I am writing phi by 2, and where from I got this phi by 2? I got this phi by 2 from my earlier knowledge. Earlier knowledge says that the total shear strain occurs, or the shear strain gamma is equal to the angular distortion occurs in both sides. If a rectangular side, the both side angular distortion occurs, that has to be counted to define the total shear strain. And similarly here, if one of the side, if I am considering, that can be represented phi by 2, and it will be more clear if I will show one figure here. You just see this figure which has been shown, the first figure which has been shown, A, B, C, D, and it has been, the AD has been shifted to, or A, the point A, because angular distortion says the point will displace from, or it is not only translates, the A has been translates from A to A prime. That means the earlier AC and now A prime AC has been, or A prime C, earlier AC and now A prime C. A prime C represents the new position of, or extension of the AC. If it will be extended, the AC, the diagonal which is going to extended, so automatically it will try to pull this BD line, or it is trying to, because volumetric change will not occur, so only the distortion occur. If the distortion occurs, the same amount of the value, if the BD has to be reduced, then it will be maintained the same amount of the volume, because shear strain does not make any volumetric change. It is not meant for the volumetric change. Now the diagonal AC which has been elongated, which I just now said, and BD which has been shortened. Now that can be represented mathematically. A prime A into cos 45 divided by AD root 2 is equal to A prime A divided by 2D, because cos 45 is equal to 1 by root 2. By putting this 2AD, it has to be equal to 5 by 2. It is part of the one part of the strain which is occurring at the one side, so it is represented by 5 by 2. Again, what I know, I can represent the same thing. That means earlier, as we are writing sigma by epsilon plus nu into sigma by E, this relation, just extension of the earlier discussion what we have just now did. So tau by E plus nu tau by E is equal to tau by E into 1 plus nu. Where from this tau by E and nu tau by E is coming, this tau by E is basically giving the strain occurring, the extension occurs, or the tensile strain occurs, or the tensile strain induced in the body, or that means the AD, particularly the AD is going to be changed. Not only one part it has been changed, if you will see, the both side has been the A prime and AD has been rotated in an angular manner. It has been rotated. AD and A prime D, it has been rotated. So now I can write the tau by E plus nu tau by E is equal to tau by E plus 1 plus nu. What is this tau by E? Or this tau by E I can also represent. This is nothing but this tau by E is equal to tau by 2G. The whole tau by 2G is equal to what we have earlier represented, 5 by 2 is equal to tau by 2G, and now the 5 by 2 which has been occurred as the tau by E into 1 plus nu, that can be equated to tau by 2G, and from here I can able to get the response or the relation E into 2G plus 1 plus nu, E is equal to 2G into 1 plus nu. And what about this tau by E? Tau by E is the tensile stress in diagonal AC due to the tensile stress in AC, and nu tau by E is equal to tensile strain induced in that. Although it is shear distortion due to the angular distortion, we are saying it's shear stress, but it is a tensile. It is going to be extended. The AC is going to be extended, and we know the shear stress does not do any kind of extension. The shear stress only does the angular distortion will be induced, and that angular distortion, but here it is not the angular distortion we are not considering, rather we are considering its lengthwise, or the proportionate length has been represented to establish the relation between due to the shear stress, how the shear stress and the corresponding shear modulus and the Young's modulus will be established. The same steps has been followed. Now by considering after this relation, we will talk about the next part of our discussion is elongation due to self weight. Elongation due to self weight we have not discussed yet. Elongation due to self weight, although we have discussed about the loading conditions, that means if I will apply some external load, then the body is going to elongate. If I am applying some external load, the body is going to develop some kind of stress inside. But what about the elongation if I am doing some, if the body is been under the loading condition due to its own weight? If it is under the loading condition, then how to find out its elongation due to its own weight? This is the example which has been shown. You can see from the figure. The figure says a bar having cross section, any kind of cross section. Here it has been shown as a rectangular cross section, and you can take a circular cross section also. It is hanging from the wall, from the rooftop, and two major things it has been shown here. The total length of the bar is L, then a small section has been hatched is delta x, or you can represent it as dx, and the delta x has been considered at a distance of x from the bottom end or from the free end. Now it says consider the bar which is hanging freely under its own weight and shown in the figure. Consider a small length delta x or dx of the bar at a distance of x from the free end. Let a is the what are the values we need to calculate for the two in order to calculate the elongation due to own weight. These are the points we need to incorporate in our expression. A is the area of cross section, W is weight per unit length. If I'll go every unit the material line, if I am taking this is the my bar, and every point the weight, every point of the unit, every point of the length, if I'll take one point to another point, what is the length, that means per unit length is small w. Capital W is the total weight of this whole bar. If I know per unit length weight, if I multiply with the whole length, then I can get the total weight. So the W, capital W is equal to small w into L. And one more case, the small wx, it is the weight of the bar. The small wx represents, because it is talking about the small, if you'll see as I have given, the figure is showing two different sections or two different part. One is whole bar which is having a length of L, and another is a small part of the x part which is showing below to that of the delta x part. Or delta x hatched area has been considered because I want to find out the induced strain or elongation due to one weight. I have taken a small area on that, and then I'll try to integrate. If I'll able to find the elongation on the small strip area, then or small strip length, then I can get the elongation for whole length as well. Just to integrate, in order to do so, we have facilitated a area delta x which at a distance of x from the free end. Now the load intensity in that area is W into x, or the small w subscript of x, and the total weight of this area under this or this rod below the delta x area is small w, because small w is per unit length, and if that length is x, so W into x is that weight of the part which is below the or within the section x or the within the length x. As like as capital W is equal to small w into L. Here the Wx which has been taken the weight, amount of weight about this x. So capital instead of capital W we are representing Wx, and Wx subscript x, W subscript x representing the total weight of the section which is at a distance of x from the free end below the delta x part. And Wx, now how to calculate the elongation, and we know what we got from this stress strain relation. Sigma is equal to sigma by E epsilon, or strain is equal to epsilon is equal to sigma by E, and epsilon is equal to change in dimension by original dimension, either it is length or it is diameter or its width, whatever any dimension I am going to take. So epsilon can be represented, or I am just expressing the same. Now the elongation due to the load can be obtained by using the following relation of the strain. That means the strain relation just now I said, it is epsilon is equal to, you see, epsilon is equal to delta L by L, or it can be represented sigma by E is equal to, because E is equal to epsilon is equal to sigma by E. Again the sigma can be represented as P by A. So by this way the final line I got, that means the change in length or the change in extent or the extension has been induced due to any stress strain behavior is delta L. The amount of change is delta L, can be represented as PL by AE. What is this PL by AE? P is the applied load, or it may be due to its own weight, and L is equal to length of the object. That means in order to get the elongation of that object, I need four things. And what are the four things? First, its weight which has been applied or due to its own weight, length of the object, area of that object, and Young's modulus of that material. That will give me, and by utilizing this PL by AE, delta or WL by AE, any name you can give, FL by AE, AF, W, any name you can give, or any presentation you can give to that load part is delta L is PL by AE. Now, similarly, for this small section, what will happen? The small section can be represent. You can see the extension of the small length is the intensity of the load Wx, either it is dx or delta x. If I'll write Wx into delta x divided by PL, L is delta x for the small strip area, the weight is Wx into delta x divided by AE. Now, to get the whole, I just need to integrate 0 to L Wx dx, and Wx dx, again this Wx dx will be converted to W by AE, and because this Wx below the length, so W into the whole length will be, instead of this, if I'll put this Wx basically talks about the load below the delta x. For whole it is W. For whole length L, the load intensity is W per unit length. So W, now if I'll put, or if I'll for the whole length of the below the x, so W into x into dx, so is the x dx will be W by A will be come out, and x dx if I'll integrate, I'll get L square by 2. Now, putting this L square by 2 if I'll open, so W L square by AE, and it will be W small w, this is small w L square by AE, small w into L is equal to capital W, which we have already discussed, because that is the total load of that. That means total load of the object and the length of the object, and A 2A. Earlier we got PL by AE, now we get either PL by 2AE. What does it mean? What it concludes? We started with epsilon is equal to sigma by E, where we are, this epsilon and sigma comes from external loading. Now we have started with the internal loading or due to its own weight. We reached at WL by 2AE. So what we can understand? That means the elongation introduced or induced in the body due to its own weight is half of the total what it has been in the normally out of the if we are applying the load from outside, and if it is due to onwards, it is half of that. The same thing has been mentioned here. It means that the deformation of the bar under its own weight is equal to the deformation due to direct load is load equal to half of the deformation due to direct load equal to the weight of the body applied at the lower end. Now, similarly, I have taken the bar is a rectangular section. If I will take any other kind of, as I said, there are also the steps can be extended further. Let us say if I am taking one more case, is conical section, and that conical section again you take one strip of that, as we have followed the same thing in the rectangular cross section. I believe all these points are M, N, H is already been given, and a delta x which has been taken from the x from the free end, and the total length is L, and the same kind of discussion what we have did in case of PL by AE, the same exact discussion has been made over here. The Wx is equal to weight of the bar below section, Wax by 3 is equal to why Wax by 3. I believe most of you know why this Wax by 3 comes from where. And similarly, if I'll put now this one, because if you'll see the extension of the whole conical section is 1/3 of the rectangular bar. If you'll see the if it is due to onwards and small delta x area has been taken, so that 1/3 of that will get over here. That means if the conical section will get that due to its own weight, the deformation will be 1/6 of the, it will be 1/6 instead of as in case of, or you can 1/3 of the rectangular bar, and due to own weight the final value will be WL by 6E, what we did in case of your rectangular section. So I am concluding my section over here. So we will discuss about the other things here in our next videos, and thank you.